Hi everyone, Farmer Questions here. In this video I'll be sharing some tips and tricks on how to memorize some important antidotes and reversal agents for specific drugs or drug classes. Let's begin with iron. Iron or ferrous sulfate is used to treat iron deficiency anemia. Iron overdose is pretty common, especially in children as they manage to get into their parents' medicine cabinets or drawers. The antidote for iron overdose is desferrioxamine, and I know what you're thinking, this is a pretty long name and how on earth are you going to remember this? Well, I remember this as iron is also known as ferrous sulfate, and the word fer also appears in the name of the antidote too, as highlighted now. The next drug we'll take a look at is copper poisoning. One of the ways in which this can occur is in Wilson's disease. Wilson's disease is a rare genetic disorder that causes excess copper to be stored in various body tissues, particularly in the liver, the brain and the corneas of the eyes, as shown in the image. The antidote for copper poisoning is penicillamine. And now that you know more about copper poisoning, it should be easier to remember the antidote. I'll be including a quiz at the end of this video so you can test yourself to see how much you've recalled. The next drug we'll take a look at is methotrexate. Methotrexate is used for a number of different indications such as Crohn's disease, rheumatoid arthritis and severe psoriasis, and it has a few different mechanisms of actions. However, for this video we'll be focusing on the antifolate properties. Folic acid is an essential vitamin which plays a role in DNA synthesis and cell division. Methotrexate is a folic acid antagonist, which is why it is able to tackle certain inflammatory conditions. The antidote for methotrexate toxicity is folinic acid. And you might be wondering why folinic acid is given instead of folic acid. Well, folinic acid is able to reach higher concentrations in plasma, and it can also function quite well in the face of defective folate metabolism. The next drug we'll take a look at is heparin. Heparin is an anticoagulant. Some of the indications include pulmonary embolism and unstable angina. The antidote for heparin is protamine. I usually remember this as protamine starts with the letter P and heparin has a letter P in it, as shown above. Using little tricks like these really does work, as opposed to trying to recall names of random drugs and antidotes. The next drug we'll take a look at is another anticoagulant, warfarin. Warfarin is used for a number of different indications such as atrial fibrillation, venous thrombosis and TIAs. The antidote for warfarin is phytomenadione. And I usually remember this as warfarin sounds like warfare and phytomenadione sounds like fighting men die. So fighting men die are warfares. The next drug we'll take a look at is dabigatran. Dabigatran is another anticoagulant, and once again it's used for many different indications such as DVTs, pulmonary embolism and prophylaxis of thromboembolism following surgery. The antidote for dabigatran is, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this correctly, idarucizumab. And this is a pretty unique antidote compared to the other ones we've covered, as it is a humanized monoclonal antibody fragment that binds specifically to dabigatran and its metabolites. The next drug we'll take a look at is digoxin. Digoxin is indicated for atrial fibrillation, and the antidote is a digoxin-specific antibody. The next drug class we'll take a look at is opioids. Opioids are a class of drugs naturally found in the opium poppy plant, and they work on the brain to produce a variety of different effects including pain relief. The antidote for opioids is naloxone, and this is a pretty common antidote which can be remembered once again using the drug name as shown above. Now let's take a look at methylglobinemia. This is a blood disorder in which an abnormal amount of methylglobin is produced, and this can be very fatal as oxygen is not delivered to tissues. Methylglobinemia can be congenital, meaning you're born with it, or it can be caused by a number of different drugs including nitrate derivatives or anesthetics. The antidote for methylglobinemia toxicity is methylene blue, and this can be remembered as methylglobinemia starts with meth and so does the antidote. Also, as methylglobinemia causes insufficient oxygen delivery to tissues, symptoms such as cyanosis occur, which can present as pale blue lips, once again linking this to the antidote name, methylene blue. The next drug we'll take a look at is insulin. Insulin is indicated for diabetes as it lowers blood glucose levels. The antidote for insulin overdose is glucagon or glucagon. Glucagon is a hormone that promotes the breakdown of glycogen to glucose in order to raise blood sugar levels, thus reversing the effects of insulin. And last but not least, let's take a look at benzodiazepines. Examples of benzodiazepines include diazepam, clonazepam, and lorazepam, typically drugs which end in pam. The antidote for benzodiazepines is flumazenil or flumazenil. And that concludes this video. I'll now add some questions here so you can test yourself to see how much you've retained. And thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and learned something new, feel free to leave a like or subscribe for future content.